Okay, a very good morning to all of you. Hope you are all fine at your places. Now, as we were discussed in our previous lectures about the parameters, and in our previous lecture, we were discussed about the various parameters like Z parameter, Y parameter, ABCD parameter, inverse ABCD parameter, G parameter, and H parameter. And when you try to derive these equations, you see one important thing, that every parameter has certain unique equation, and based upon that equation we can derive the parameter. And when we derive the parameter, you will see on a right hand side there are always two signals present, and these two signals may be input voltage, input current, input voltage, output current, output voltage, input current, and output current, output voltage. So depending upon what type of signal you have on the right hand side of the equation, we have simply drive this equation. And you also seen that when you drive these equations, we have to equate we have to equate the signal equal to zero on the right hand side. For example, if on the right hand side you have a V1, so we have to equate this V1 is equal to 0. And when you equate this V1 is equal to 0, then the voltage will be equal to 0, and we know voltage is 0 when we have a short circuit. And similarly, when you have to equate the current is equal to 0, that means we have to get an open circuit. Okay. So after that, you will see that we have derived all the parameters, that Z is comprising of four another parameters: Z11, Z12, Z21, Z22, and likewise Y, Y11, Y12, Y21, Y22, likewise ABCD, likewise inverse ABCD, likewise G, that is G11, G12, G21, and G22, and also in case of an H, H11, H12, H21, and H22. Okay. Now, after that, we were discussed about that the interrelation. Interrelations means what is the relation between a one parameter in terms of another parameter. We were discussed that the interrelation between a Z and Y parameter, and in that case, you see Z in terms of Y, we have a certain equation that on the left hand side we have Z11, Z22, sorry, Z12, Z21, and Z22, and on the right hand side you have that is Y22 upon del Y, Y12 minus Y21 upon del Y, and all that. So based upon that thing, we have to interrelate all another parameters. Clear? So to start with this thing, this thing, we have number one, that is called as equations for ABCD parameter. So if you see on a screen, there is a term that is called as Z parameter in terms of ABCD parameter. So question is how you can get a Z parameter in terms of ABCD parameter. See beta, we have most of the equations, and you will follow a certain technique to get the result. Like if you see on a Z parameter in terms of ABCD parameter, we have first of all ABCD parameter. Now for ABCD parameter, this is the equation for the ABCD parameter, that is V1 is equal to AB2 minus BI2 and I1 is equal to CV2 minus DI2, isn't it? ऐसा होता है ABCD पैरामीटर की यही इक्वेशंस बनती हैं. ये इक्वेशन कहां से बनेंगी? जब आप उसकी बेसिक इक्वेशन लेंगे, कॉन्स्टेंट ऑफ प्रोपोर्शनैलिटी को हटाएंगे, देन इंसर्ट करेंगे एबीसीडी और उसको खोलेंगे, तो आपके पास यही इक्वेशन बनेगी, दैट इज V1 इज इक्वल टू AB2 माइनस BI2 एंड I1 इज इक्वल टू CV2 माइनस DI2. बनेगा बच्चे? बनेगा या नहीं बनेगा?
Yes, sir.
सो यू सी, अगर आप इन दोनों इक्वेशंस को देखते हो और साथ ही साथ अगर आप अपनी z की इक्वेशन देखते हो, तो व्हाट विल हैपन इन केस ऑफ अ z में क्या होता है, दैट इज y1 y2. सो अगर आप अपनी दोनों इक्वेशंस को, ये v1 ये v1 i1 वाली इक्वेशंस को, इन दोनों इक्वेशंस को अगर आप इस तरीके से रिजॉल्व कर लें कि आपके इक्वेशन नंबर 1 और इक्वेशन नंबर 2 में लेफ्ट हैंड साइड पे v1 और v2 ही बने, सो यू कैन कंपेयर these two equations, that is v1 and v2, with ABCD parameter. You can easily get the value. Okay, so you can see here we have Z11, Z12, Z21 and Z22 is equal to this value will becomes. Clear? So क्वेश्चन क्या है कि आप लोगों ने इनकी डेरिवेशन को रिजॉल्व कैसे करना है, सॉल्व कैसे करना है, यू हैव टू इक्वेशंस like ABCD, like in this case you have Z parameter in terms of ABCD parameter. पहले आप अपनी ABCD की इक्वेशन लिखेंगे, ABCD की इक्वेशन को इस तरीके से आप लोगों ने कंपेयर करवाना है अपनी Z इक्वेशन के साथ कि Z इक्वेशन के लेफ्ट हैंड साइड पे V1 V2 है और आपको ABCD की इक्वेशन को भी V1 V2 की फॉर्म में लेके आना है। जैसे ही आप लेके आएंगे तो आप जब उसको कंपेयर करेंगे तो आपका Z पैरामीटर इन टर्म्स ऑफ ABCD पैरामीटर बन जाएगा। हुआ क्लियर? इज इट क्लियर?
Yes, sir.
सो दीज इक्वेशन, देखिए यहां पर ये जो आप इक्वेशन देख रहे हैं ना, ये देखने में आपको आसान लग रही है, बट ये तब तक आपको क्लियर नहीं होगी जब तक आप इसको अपनी कॉपी पे नोट डाउन नहीं करेंगे, आप अपनी कॉपी पे खुद से नहीं निकालेंगे। और सेम चीज मैं यहां भी फॉलो करूंगा हर एक इक्वेशन में। लाइक वी सी, दिस इज योर सेकंड इक्वेशन, that is y in terms of ABCD parameter. Now you can remember again ABCD parameter की इक्वेशन पहले वही आ गई, that is v1 is equals to AV2 minus BI2 and I1 is equal to CB2 minus DI2. But now in this case आपको याद होगा y पैरामीटर में लेफ्ट हैंड साइड पे I1 I2 होता है, वेयर एज z पैरामीटर में लेफ्ट हैंड साइड पे V1 V2 होता है। नाउ इस केस में आपको ये जो ABCD की इक्वेशंस हैं इसको इस तरीके से अरेंज करना है कि आपके लेफ्ट हैंड साइड पे I1 I2 बने। सो सी हमने क्या किया बच्चे, आप देखिए इस इक्वेशन में इफ आई टेक इक्वेशन नंबर 1, अगर मैं यहां से इक्वेशन नंबर 1 लेता हूं, इस इक्वेशन नंबर 1 से अगर मैं I2 की वैल्यू निकालता हूं तो I2 विल बिकम एज -1/b V1 प्लस a/b V2, और इसी I2 की वैल्यू को मैं सब्स्टिट्यूट करता हूं इस इक्वेशन में, सेकंड इक्वेशन में। सो I1 इज इक्वल टू CV2 माइनस d इंटू I2 की वैल्यू डालता हूं। सो अब ध्यान से देखिए आपका I1 क्या है, d बाई बी V1 प्लस BC माइनस AD बाई V2, and your I2 क्या है, -1/b V1 plus a by b V2. Now you have two equations, that is I2, and you have two equations, that is I1. Y parameter कहता है I1 और I2. Now when you compare this I1 and I2, you can get, here you can see the matrix, that is y is equal to y11 y12 y21 y22 is equal to simply d by b bc minus ad by b minus 1 by b, and it is a by e. So you can say that this matrix, that is a y matrix, is denoted or represented in the terms of ABCD parameter. So what is the value of y11 in terms of ABCD? If you have to get the value of y11, this y11 will be equals to d by b bc minus ad by b, y21 is equal to minus 1 by b, and lastly we have a by b. Is it clear? Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
So you can get an idea now how these equations can be calculated. Now again, if you see on the third equation like this thing, we have a simple equation that y in terms of h parameter. Now see again, you have to solve y parameter in terms of h parameter. What I have to do? सबसे पहले h parameter, these equations, that is v1 is equal to h11 I1 plus h12 v2, I2 is equal to h21 I1 plus h22 v2. Two equations of h parameter. नाउ इन दोनों इक्वेशंस को मुझे इस तरीके से अरेंज करना है कि मेरा लेफ्ट हैंड साइड पे I1 और I2 बने। क्यों बने I1 I2? बिकॉज you have to solve h parameter in terms of y parameter, and in case of a y parameter on the left hand side you have I1 and I2. So I can rearrange these h parameter equations in such a way that on the left hand side you will become as I1 and I2. Now you can see here what I should have to do. I will take from the first equation and I can get the value of I1 from this equation and substitute this I1 into the second equation. Again it is I2. So again you have I1, you have I2. So when you compare this y parameter in terms of h parameter, so y11 is equals to 1 upon h11, y12 is equals to minus h21 upon h11, y21 is equal to h21 upon h11, and your y2 will becomes as del h upon h11, where del h is equal to h11 h22 minus h12 h21. So here you can solve the equation like y parameter in terms of your h parameter. Clear? So again I will tell you one thing, that you need not to cram these equations. You have to just follow the basic rule that how a equation can be interrelated into the another equation. For that, simply you can take an equation, drive that equation, equate that equation on the left hand side equation, and you can get a result. For example, if I see in the next, that is ABCD parameter in terms of Z parameter. Now you have to drive ABCD parameter in terms of Z parameter. तो सबसे पहले मैं Z parameter की equation लिखूंगा. You see, Z parameter is V1 is equal to Z11 I1 plus Z12 I2, and your V2 is equal to Z21 I1 plus Z22 I2. Okay. Now we know in case of ABCD parameter, we have on the left hand side is I1 and V1. So I can arrange these two equations in such a manner that on the left hand side you have V1 and you have I1. So that is why I can take I1 from this equation, second equation, and substitute this I1 into the above equation. So when you solve these equation, again you can see your ABCD parameter, that is ABCD is equal to Z11 upon Z21, del Z upon Z21, 1 upon Z21, Z22 upon Z21. It is clear? It is clear now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Is it understood to all the students?
Yes, sir.
So likewise, you can see we have another equation, that is ABCD in terms of Y parameter. The same technique I can follow. First of all, we have Y parameter, I1, I2, that is I1 is equals to YV11 V1 plus Y12 V2, I2 is equals to Y21 V1 plus Y22 V2. Now on the left hand side, you have to take ABCD, and according to the ABCD on the left hand side, you have V1 and I1. So I can equate these two equations in the form of V1 and I1. So after equating these equation, you can see your ABCD, that will be equals to minus Y22 upon Y21 minus 1 upon Y21 del Y upon Y21 and minus Y11 upon Y21. So these are you can say that the relations for different parameters. Okay. So you can see all these relations. Clear? So these are certain interrelations of a Z of a parameter, and in these interrelations, what we have to discuss, we are discussed about, that is what is the relation between one parameter and in another parameter. So quickly you can say that in case of parameters, we have different type of parameters available, like Z parameter, Y, ABCD, inverse, G, and H parameter. So firstly, we have drive all these parameters and see how these parameters get the values. For example, I can again repeat that Z is equal to Z11, Z12, Z21, and Z22. There are four elements or the four parameter under the Z parameter, and every parameter has its under four different parameters. Now, after that, we have interrelate. Interrelate means how you can relate one parameter with another parameter. That is how you can relate, for example, Z parameter in terms of Y parameter. That is, what is the relation between a Z and a Y? You can drive it. What is the relation between an ABCD and say G parameter? What is the relation between a G parameter and H parameter? So all these will cover your interrelations. Okay. So I hope you can understand this concept, that is how the interrelation of this parameter can be carried down. I will request to all the students to be present there. I will provide the study material on your WhatsApp group, and also provide the video of that thing. You should try to solve these interrelations at your places. And if you find any problem while solving these interrelations, you are most welcome. Comment me on WhatsApp as well as my video, so that I will you provide another option to get these values. Okay. So I again request to try to solve these equations on your notebook. Okay, bache?